The program is called On My Way to Meet You, and its brightest star is 20-year-old Yeomni Park. The show screens on cable TV in South Korea and is part chat show, part talent quest and part musical. But it's not all froth and bubbles.
This show is actually telling the truth about North Korea. And of course, North Korea itself is like propaganda, and they don't want to let the people to know about the truth, the behind the scene. It's really ugly, right?
Yeomni uses her star power to let viewers know how difficult life is in North Korea. And the message is getting home where it matters.
In China, it's very popular right now, so lots of people are seeing this show, and then they send this to back North Korea, and people are seeing it, and then they are saying, "Oh, I know that lady. She's from here." So you know, it's very popular in North Korea right now.
These photographs are remnants of Yeomni's former life that began in North Korea over 20 years ago. She's taken a break from the TV studio to visit her mother with her older sister, Unmi. Not so long ago, a family gathering like this seemed impossible. The three of them have survived a painful journey to be here together. Yeonmi and her sister grew up under the leadership of Kim Jong-il. It was the late 1990s, the time of the Great Famine.
I was like 9 years old or like 10, and like next to the school, and some street kids were there, and then they were like dying there. But I saw that too many times, so I did not know it was really sad thing, because nobody told me that's really horrible things.
Yeomni's father was a party member and worked in the capital, Pyongyang.
이게 김정일이 배급을 전혀 못 주고 이제 생활을 국민들한테 보장해줄 처지가 못 되니까 그다음에 장사를 단속하지 않았어요. 자기 능력껏 벌어서 살아라. 그다음에는 이 불법 장사로 뛰어들은 거죠.
When Yeomni was 8, her father was arrested for smuggling goods to China to sell on the black market. He was sentenced to 17 years in a labour camp. North Korea has never admitted to the horrors of life in its labour camps, not even to their existence. But Amnesty International has released these surveillance photos of the camps where torture and beatings happen every day.
딱 그 자리만 때리는 거예요. 그러니까 다른 데를 안 때리고 딱 아픈 자리를 또 때리고 아픈 자리를 또 때리고 이렇게 해서 결국은 안고 어점동도 다 대소변도 안고 받아내었다 그러더라고요.
Yeomni's father was given a brief reprieve from prison for medical treatment. It was then the family decided to escape.
저희 아빠가 그러시더라고요. 너희는 이제는 북한에서 희망이 없다. 너희 희망을 찾으려면 아무래도 나가야 되겠다고. 중국으로 가야 되겠다. 그래서 저희는 중국을 택했고 그 브로커를 제가 찾았고 제가 먼저 나왔고.
At just 16, Unmi fled the country with a friend. Her family was devastated. Desperate to find her sister, Yeonmi and her parents walked across the mountains to the border, where they bribed guards to cross the Tumen River to China. But there was no sign of Unmi.
We called North Korea after we escaped. They were saying just people were trying to rape her, and then she didn't yes to them, so they killed her.
In the Chinese towns along the border with North Korea, Yeonmi's family was destitute and on the run, powerless to search any further for Unmi. Stateless, with no identity, they feared being arrested and sent back to North Korea.
I couldn't go anywhere, even out of my door. I couldn't even turn on the lights. And they constantly locking door and then check the ID card. So that was my nightmare for me.
And things were about to get worse. Yomni's father was diagnosed with cancer and was given just 3 months to live.
My thought was not because I was sad or he's dying, just what can I do with his body after he's died, you know? I cannot even hide my body so I'm alive, but what about the dead body? It was really, I felt really guilty for my father, but it's life, right? It's a reality. And so as a nurse current defector, there is no way to even comfortably die, right? No funeral too. So but still
한두 사람 이렇게 돈을 주고 우리가 샀어요. 그 사람들이 가서 멀리 올라가서 그 연미가 그때는 우리 큰 딸을 찾지 못했으니까 연미가 아버지에게 시신을 안고
and then 3 a.m. we had to move his body. Everybody's sleeping, so and then I buried him on the midnight by myself. And I was sitting there and it was so cold and there's nobody I can call. There's nobody come to my father's funeral, nobody knows it.
In the depth of winter, the temperature at -40 degrees, and with only a compass to guide them, Yomni and her mother walked for 24 hours through the Gobi Desert, across the Chinese border into Mongolia.
We didn't have money, so we had to walk. Just walk, no cars, no guy, just... And then I didn't want to die. I was 17. But I saw my father's death. It was not human. It was just, he was less fair than animal. And I didn't want to end up my life like that.
Yomni and her mother arrived in Seoul after seeking asylum at the South Korean embassy in Mongolia. The capital is only 50 kilometres from North Korea, but their long and treacherous journey had taken them 2 years, and they'd lost 2 family members on the way. 5 years on, they're still adjusting to their new life.
Oh, it's big shocking, you know. It's huge, different, so different, and so many lives. There was a lot of catch up for me to study, so I had to study a lot, and these days I have to work a lot.
Yeonmi joined the TV program 3 years ago. Today she's pretending to be a child rehearsing a dance to perform for the dear leader, Kim Jong-il. Mocking the regime is dangerous work. Some of the women have received threats and the North Korean propaganda machine is in overdrive.
So first time they said, oh, they are all South Korean actors. They are not North Korean. They are just trying to pretend to be North Korean. So nowadays they are saying that they just kidnap them and then they are just force them to say a lie. So that's how they, tell their people in North Korea.
Raising the ire of the regime was never the intention, but rather the show's producers hoped the program would break down social barriers by helping South Koreans understand the plight of their kinsmen from the north. Like Mrs. Lee, who was a nurse in the North Korean army for 11 years.
저예요. 여가 29살 때
It took her 9 attempts before she managed to get to South Korea. Each time she was sent back to North Korea, she was tortured.
여기 이게 상처가 이게 뭐냐면 그 보이부에 잡혀가지고 보이부에서 이게 뭐랄까 조사하는 과정에 난로에 꽂아놓은 그 불갈고리 있어요. 제 판에는 그 불갈고리로 때린 게 이게 밀려가지고 이렇게 뒤에는 낫으로 찍어갖고 낫으로 이렇게 패였어요. 그다음에 여기 뜨거운 물 부어갖고 이게 다 이게 다 됐어요. 뜨거운 물로 이렇게 부어갖고 이렇게 빨가벗 끼고 고문을 하거든요.
The TV show has turned Yomni into a celebrity, but instead of wallowing in it, she's using her newfound high profile to carve out a serious career. She's just landed herself another job, this time as a reporter for New Focus International.
Our place is a biggest newspaper for the North Korean refugees. So actually here, our North Korean defectors are writing articles about North Korean issue. So actually they got the really good connection. So they get the really very good information from North Korea.
The former propaganda poet, Jung Jin Song, is the founder and director of the online news service. In December last year, New Focus broke the story that Kim Jong-un's uncle had been executed. The New York Times celebrated Mr. Jung on the cover of its magazine, and not unexpectedly, North Korea placed him on its target list.
저와 뉴포커스를 물리적으로 제거하겠다고. 그만큼 독재가 화가 났다는 것은 우리가 하는 일이 아주 잘한다는 거죠.
And that's a good reason to expand. Yomni's been recruited to host the organisation's new online news broadcast.
또 젊고 그리고 이게 글 쓰는 소질이 있기 때문에 그러니까 그 부분을 잘 살리게 되면 굉장히 스타가 될 수 있겠다.
행방불명된 언니를
Under the bright lights of the TV studio, Yomni lived with the heartache of not knowing what had happened to her sister. She made this dramatic appeal in the hope Unmi might see it.
이렇게 언니 오늘 찾으려고 정말 단단히 마음 먹고 나왔는데 정말 언니가 이 영상을 꼭 봤으면 좋겠어. 그리고 언니 많이 보고 싶고 나도 아빠처럼 죽을 때까지 언니 못 찾으면 못 만날 거야. 언니 동생 여기 있으니까 잊지 말고 꼭 만나자. 사랑해 언니.
But in reality, Yeonmi was losing hope and had started to believe her sister was dead.
After 5 years later, I started to believe it a little bit. So all the people surrounded me, it's time for you to accept that.
Her older sister Unmi had in fact survived, but was living in China under such terrible circumstances that even now she finds difficult to talk about.
아니에요. 내가 무서워. 제일 힘들어하는 대답이 드디어 나오지 않네요. 내가 이것 때문에 고생해서 생각했거든요.
There's clearly a lot that's too raw to broach, but she does open up about the way she was exploited by employers.
너 북한에서 왔다는 거 알기 때문에 널 여기서 받아서 일해주는 거, 일할 수 있게끔 해주는 것만으로 고맙게 생각해라. 돈은 상관하지 말고. 그러니까 내가 일한 만큼 돈을 못 받는다는 거죠.
When she finally left the job, the restaurant owner had gangsters track her down.
솔직히 공포스럽죠. 누가 나를 여기서 찾고 있다는 게 알기 때문에 날 언제 잡으면 그냥 죽이겠다는 걸 내가 알기 때문에 아예 가지 않았어요. 저는 진짜 그것 때문에 더 이 한국으로 오게 됐어요.
In January this year, while Unmi was at the processing centre for North Korean defectors, the South Korean intelligence service discovered her mother and sister were living in Seoul.
My mom just called me, and then she was just crying, and she just couldn't speak any words. I was, what is wrong, mom? Mom, tell me what is wrong. And then your sister is here.
After 7 years of separation, it was an emotional reunion, one that echoes every time they see each other.
말이 안 나오더라고요. 너무 반가워서. 반갑고 너무 놀랐고.
And what was that like when you saw her?
It was like just, what can you say? You didn't see 7 years and you can say how are you? There's just no word for that. Just seeing each other and holding hands together and just, yeah.
Not surprisingly, the two sisters are inseparable these days and enjoying their freedom and the riches of capitalism.
언니 검정색 좋아하잖아. 오, 블링블링.
She got the real big wound here. It's never gonna, recover again. So I don't want her to live with a self-pity. I want her to be confident, to embrace other people. So that's why I'm constantly telling her, you are so blessed.
As Yomni's star rises, it's her family she cherishes the most. The sisters have embraced their new South Korean stepfather, but they'll never stop missing their own. Her safety and security now a serious issue, Yeonmi refuses to cower to the threats of the regime she abhors.
My detective just told me, seriously, you are in the danger. And yeah, you have to change all the information. But I said no, because my name, like Park Yeonmi, is my legacy from my father. That's the only one he just left on me. I'm very proud of my name, so that's why if I die, I'm okay, I already experienced this freedom, so I'm satisfied. So at least I can say that I did something for my people in North Korea. So,
Yeonmi and her family have had a harrowing time. The childhood lullaby is comforting, but brimming with sadness and pain.
해가 가고 달가니 사무칩니다. 어머니 나를 키운 어머니 우리 어머니 이건 엄마